You're listening to Arizona Good Business Radio, featuring unique stories with leaders who believe the community is a central part of doing business. Join us on the journeys of entrepreneurs, local businesses, and champions of Arizona who believe working together, we can build stronger communities.
To Arizona Good Business Radio, featuring leaders in the Arizona business community working to build a lasting impact throughout our state through doing good business. I'm your host, once again, Thomas Barr, Vice President of Business Development at Local First Arizona. If you don't know about us, we're a statewide organization advocating for and celebrating locally owned businesses. We are the largest local business coalition in North America. Pretty crazy. And we provide resources to thousands of small businesses while raising awareness of the benefits of building a strong local economy. And we're going to have fun today with Kathleen Ventura, the owner of Compost Crowd, all the way down from Sedona, Arizona. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah. And I was telling Kathleen right before the show, I saw another podcast you did recently, and I only saw like 3 seconds, and you had this like huge personality. So I was like, we're not gonna have any trouble having a great conversation today. It's gonna be fun.
If nothing else, I'm definitely high energy. Sometimes that translates into me talking too fast. So I'm gonna do my absolute best to breathe in between my words.
We're gonna get like an hour's worth of content in 30 minutes then.
That's actually a perfect perspective. Yeah. I love that.
I listen to all my podcasts on 1.5.
I do too. I feel like there's like you're like of one camp or the other. There's people who are like, you can do that, and people who are like, how could you listen to it?
The only ones I can't are the ones that also play music in the middle, where it's just like,
Chipmunks.
Oh, I forgot like this
Chipmunks.
Is going fast. Yeah. Anyway, lots to talk about. First, you're from Columbus, Ohio.
I'm not from Columbus, Ohio, but do you want to know the story about the
Let's hear it.
The touch point? Okay. So I'm from the Chicago area.
Okay.
And my best friend growing up in Chicago got her master's from the University of Chicago. She was living with a bunch of roommates, whatever, and they were composting in their backyard. And then she took her first professional job in Columbus, Ohio, and was trying to figure out where can I compost. She was trying to get her coworkers who had chickens to take her food scraps and whatnot. And I went to visit her, and she said, "You're never going to believe it. I found this company where they'll come to the house and they will pick up my food scraps collection. I can pick if they come every week or every other week." And she was just a 20-something single person living by herself. So this was a perfect solution. But my entrepreneurial mind and environmentalist mind thought, how has Columbus, Ohio figured this out, but not Northern Arizona? Like, why is Sedona not doing this? Why is Flagstaff not doing this? And this was like 8 or 9 years ago or so. And it just kind of was always in the back of my mind, like, we need to bring this to Northern Arizona, but I was doing other things professionally. But that's the connection to Columbus, Ohio. Okay. Yeah. Is that
so
Bessie is there.
Name drop. Do you know the name of the business in Columbus?
I think it was like Compost Columbus or something
cool.
like that. I'm almost positive.
They got it easy.
Yeah, definitely. There's 2 that I'm very aware of for sure. And I think that's the one that she was the customer of. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got a cousin in Ohio, so I'm gonna have to tell him about it.
Yeah.
But cool. So you came out to Arizona. Did you land in Sedona first?
Yeah. So we were in Sedona at that point. And so we've been in Sedona for 11 years. And we had traveled the world internationally, and I had wanted to start a different business, and it made sense to be to me, like American time zones and things like that. And so we landed in Sedona. We weren't sure. It was like a 6-month lease that we signed, and that was 11 years ago. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, you came in right in time, right?
Yeah.
Don't know if you'll be able to do that today, but
no.
Crazy.
Yeah,
but
different.
Awesome. So glad to have you in Arizona, and such a cool concept. I've been, and I don't know if you partner with our city at all.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do.
We don't partner with them, but we love them.
I mean, you have your regions, right?
Yes.
So I've been composting through them we're on 10 years now.
Oh my God. I want to clap, but I know that's like not what sound wants.
Well, when JD got started, he was him out at farmers markets, like talk. I'm sure you had
That's
to do
what I'm still doing. It's what I'm still doing. Yeah, absolutely.
It takes that groundwork, that word of mouth. And we saw him connect with him. He joined Local First. He does all the compost for our big events, but we got a bucket and weekly service, and it's awesome. And I can't even imagine doing, like, once you do it for like 2 months, you're like, you feel bad when you're somewhere else and you're like, I've got to throw away this piece of bread. Like,
you are like our exact customer. Like, usually customers will walk up to my booth, I think at the farmer's market, and they'll like touch their chest, like touch their heart. And they're like, I just moved here from XYZ and I've been throwing all my food scraps in the trash and it hurts me.
Yeah.
It's like, once you do it, just like my friend, once you do it, you're kind of desperate to find, somewhere to put that stuff. Yeah.
And then
love that.
when you realize all of the other things that you can compost, like paper towels, and then like the material that they make, like bamboo and stuff that you can use to eat.
Yeah.
Like throwing that stuff away is like, ooh, so it's hard sometimes. But we have a huge commitment to it at Local First. We do it even when we have like team retreats and everybody comes together and eats, like we compost. So it's a huge value of Local First Arizona. But I'd love to hear about, how long you've been doing it, what it's taken to get where you are, what you're doing now. Tell us the story.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to say I love Local First for walking their talk in that way. We're huge proponents of Local First and everything that you guys do, but love that, that your events and everything have, prioritized sustainability as far as it relates to waste and food waste and things like that. So, how long have we been doing it? So we launched the business in January of 2018. And I feel like that could be a longer or a shorter story, but the gist of it is, like I had mentioned, I had this idea, I had wanted to do it. I was doing other things professionally at the time. And long-ish story short, it basically was there was an event happening in January of 2018, in like the third week of that month, that we thought, if we're ever going to present this to the community, this might be a great opportunity to do so. We got in touch with the organizers of that event and said, hey, would there be a chance that we could promote at your event? And they said yes. And so that was basically the first week of January. And from that to the third week of January, we decided on a business name and an LLC and a payment processor and a basic website and a payment structure, and bought 10 buckets and 10 lids and 10 stickers for those buckets and lids. And that's what happened. And that, again, it was January of, God, almost like 7 years ago now. And we got one customer that day. And I thought, oh my God, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
And then between then and like the middle of April, we ran some promotions for Earth Day that year. We had about 40 customers. And so we thought, okay, proof of concept.
There you
go. Yeah. And so then it kind of all grew from there, essentially.
Cool. I love the stories of, don't overthink it. Just like, what do you need to like get going? Our founder tells a story of when she started her record store almost 39 years ago. She had 15 CDs, and $40 cash, and just started going, And so, that's what we believe in, is the power of entrepreneurship, is just running with an idea, finding the resources, and making it happen. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We always love to say that, like, your resourcefulness is your greatest resource. People think it's like an abundance of time or money or whatever. And like, of course, those resources are of value.
Yeah.
But it's like your resourcefulness can be your greatest resource, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
Well, almost 7 years now. Super cool. I did a little cheating and I saw you have diverted 600 tons.
Yeah.
Is that a real number?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's great. It's wild. So like we have like a rough idea, of course, of like the average weight of the buckets that we pick up from houses. And then we weigh all of our commercial stuff because we provide reporting to all of them. And so earlier this year, I sat down with all of the numbers.
Oh my gosh.
And if I was like really good, I would be calculating it in real time. But yeah, I would say probably now it's probably closer to 700.
Wow.
Just being that was like at the end of last year that I pulled that number.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's wild to think about, like one 5-gallon bucket at a time, one small bucket at a time, one restaurant at a time, one event at a time.
Yeah.
That it compounds like that, and that it is a considerable amount of material, not only to be diverted from the landfill, but to be returned, to agriculture in the area. It's an impressive thing. Yeah.
It really is. And, I was just like 600 tons, and I was thinking back to that SNL skit not too long ago where, forget who the comedian was, but it was a throwback to like the founding of America and how they changed all the metrics that we were going to use. And they were like, how are we going to measure pounds? And he was like, we will measure it by 2,000 and it will be called a ton. And so I did the math because I want to know how many pounds, and
it's a lot.
1.2 million pounds. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's insane. And I appreciate you saying that because, we're called community composters, and there's community compost businesses across the United States. And I tend to follow many of them, but lots that are in bigger cities, like Boston or Nashville, and they have like multiple millions of tons. And I'm like, oh, we're just doing this little situation over here. But it is impressive, when you extrapolate it that way.
So break it down to what it takes to do that in an area like Sedona. I know you serve Flagstaff too now.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So we started in Sedona, then we heard from people, hey, we live in the village of Oak Creek, will you please come to the village? And it was kind of like, yep, if we can get X number of houses in your area, we'll expand there. So it expanded to the village of Oak Creek almost immediately, and then into businesses, restaurants, and events. And then the following spring, we launched our residential service in Flagstaff. So so we've been there for quite a while. They're wonderful and amazing. It's a completely different culture in Flagstaff naturally than it is in Sedona. Obviously, there's a lot more people. There's university, etc. But as far as what it takes to do it all, is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does the operations look like? I mean, that's I mean, the difference, I guess I would say, I mean, not just in people, but in travel, like doing something in a smaller area like that compared to a big city, you
Yeah,
have
well, we don't have
less.
the density.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have the density, less
Yeah.
economies of scale to make it happen. So how do
Yeah.
you manage through that?
Yeah, so it's my husband and I do all of the work.
Mm,
So I think that that's been a major key to our success is we didn't kind of bite off more than we can chew and start buying, fancy equipment and hiring people, before we needed to.
mm,
And so we just keep it really tight and really efficient from like how we do everything and the routes and bucket washing and all of that stuff. And so, for example, we pick up commercial material on Tuesdays and Fridays, and we do residential collection in Sedona on Wednesday and Flagstaff on Thursday.
okay.
And then we have Mondays for like meetings and, recovery and bucket washing and things like that.
Yeah.
And my husband does all of, as we like to say, the heavy lifting, like literally.
Okay.
The heavy lifting, at this point, he does all of the routes. And then I do all of the behind the scenes stuff like,
Cool.
marketing, customer service, billing, social media. I do all of the farmers markets and booths and things like that.
All
So
the fun
we
stuff.
can, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I can do the other
Yeah.
stuff. It's definitely not my favorite.
Yeah.
It's way dirtier. Literally, I washed all the buckets until about a couple of months ago. He's now doing that too. So
Okay.
I was doing some of the gross work, I guess, as you might say. But yeah, we tend to do really well as business owners, as business partners,
Yeah.
by sort of staying in our lane and
Cool.
knowing what we are both really good at. Because, for example, I'm not stoked on picking up the compost, and he's not stoked on trying to figure out, the billing situation and
Yeah.
the customer service emails. And
How do I
like
get
that.
this social media post up?
Yeah, no, like just no. He just like,
Yeah.
we don't need social media. Who's on social media?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you're still going out to farmers markets, still
Mhm.
convincing people this is something you should do. What are those conversations like? What is the reception, I guess,
Mhm.
in a place like Sedona or in a place like Flagstaff? Are they different? Are they similar in any way? What is
Yeah,
that
I
like?
really appreciate that question because they are very different, as a
Mm.
matter of fact. So we're very fortunate that we've been at the Flagstaff Farmers Market for the entire time that we've been in business up there. And generally the conversations that we have up there are people approach the booth and they say, hey, how much does this cost? Hey, how often do you come? Hey, can I put citrus in my bucket? And it's evident that they've either composted on their own at home or they've lived somewhere where it was, a service that was provided.
I'm looking to see it would make sense for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we let them know, we answer all those questions. We have a weekly and a biweekly subscription. Primarily, almost all of our customers do the biweekly option. I always say it depends on like lifestyle and number of people in your house,
Yeah.
but that's just what we see. And then in Sedona, when we're at the market, which is not as often because the Sedona market's just smaller and there's, it's the trick with us is that we're only marketing to locals, whereas a lot of markets, especially in Sedona, you're going to have a lot of visitors and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we're not there as frequently, but the conversations tend to be a little different. Like, what is this? And why should I do this? And why can't I feed my food scraps to the wildlife?
Mm.
And so there's more of like an educational component based on those conversations, that it's not as familiar of a practice that you kind of have to explain, well, the reason this is important, it's kind of like recycling, but better,
Yeah.
in a way and stuff like that. So that's generally what the conversations are. And then, as it relates to like restaurants and businesses and leadership like that, I always kind of say like, you either get it or you don't. Like when it comes to sustainability, environmentalism, recycling, for instance, you either care about it or you don't care about it. You can't, sort of persuade somebody to care about the environment. They kind of have to come to it on their own. So generally the leadership, the business owners, the executive chefs, et cetera, that we talk to get it, and they're stoked on it. They're excited about it. They understand, and they're going to lead their kitchens, their staff, their businesses to, sort of do it.
Yeah.
We don't go in trying to convince anyone, if you will. So it's one of those things.
Cool. Well, that's great to see that there is the demand, there is the interest, both from the residential and the commercial side.
Mhm.
How is that split for you? In as far as business goes, is it close to 50-50? Is it outweighed by one or the other?
Yeah, it's super interesting because it's like Dory actually asked me that too on the interview that you were just referencing, and it's tough to say because like it's like, are we talking like financial split? Are we talking like bandwidth of our time and resources and stuff like that? Because for example, like there's a restaurant that we pick up 700 pounds twice a week. That's a couple thousand houses, worth of material or whatever. So it just kind of depends on like the metric that you're using.
Yeah.
But yeah, we right now are really fortunate that we do spend most of Tuesday, most of Friday, picking up commercial and then two separate days, doing residential. So you could in that way say that it's split,
Sure.
but it really is like a tricky comparison,
There's
whether
different
you're like
ways to
talking
look at
about
it.
volume or time it takes or the financial revenue from that or whatever. But they're both really valuable components of what we do. The residential is major because it's extremely scalable, and the commercial is really good because we're capturing a lot more
Got it.
material. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're so excited to have you today and so excited that you're a part of Local First and everything that you're doing. And I think you're the first person to reach out and say, hey, can I be in your podcast? And to actually leave me a voicemail. Hey, can I please come down and be on your podcast? No one's ever asked before. And I was just like, this is cool. Yeah. I'm usually like, please come on, like trying to find people. But no, I was like stoked. I was like, this is so cool. Like, yeah, let's do it. So what makes you so like you are so excited about and passionate about what you're doing? What's exciting to you about the future of the company and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I'm sorry that I sent you such a
No,
ridiculous
we're
message.
here.
I was like, I
We're
don't know how this is going to go, but this is what I'm going to do. And
Yeah.
and I just, as I've said, like we love Local First. We've been part of Local First. I'm just such an advocate of small business and the importance of keeping our dollars on the local economy, even before becoming a local small business owner. So I just like love you guys. We've done work, like I said, with the Green Business Boot Camp up in the Verde Valley for a couple of years and stuff. And so, yeah, that's why I was like, how did I not know that Local First had a business podcast? This might be a really good fit. So thank you for inviting us. We're very grateful.
Well, it's so funny though,
opportunity.
because the last 3 shows have been people that have driven here from out of town. We had someone from Tucson come up, and then we had Friends of the Verde River drive down from Cottonwood, and now you're here from Sedona. So this is truly a statewide podcast.
Yeah, it's like we're setting a trend.
Yeah,
definitely. So the question is, what am I excited about? So there's a couple of things that I'm excited about. One is that I have been wanting to personally be super excited about going into multi unit, like family unit buildings, and especially in Flagstaff where there's a ton of leasing offices, property management companies, HOAs, just apartment complexes and townhome complexes and things like that.
Yeah.
And to explain to them like, hey, like if you want to incentivize your residents, to do this, we can either, come up with a special rate, or you guys can supplement part of this, and we can, access the advantages of density.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to announce that we just established our first partnership with a company called Yugo. Yugo. There's 2 different properties, and specifically we're working with Yugo Flagstaff Grove, and they have 800 residents, and they're very crunchy. They're very like engaged in the community. They're putting in community gardens. They always are having events and stuff like that. And they came to us and said, hey, we think this would be a phenomenal thing to, provide, an incentive for our residents to be doing this, and to explain the importance of not just recycling, but also composting your food waste and whatnot. For example, we're having a pumpkin drop. We always do an annual pumpkin drop with the city of Flagstaff and the city of Sedona separately. And I had mentioned it to them. And they were like, what if we had, like a drop-off option here, and then we could bring them all over there collectively. And so it's just sort of like a way to engage the community and bring more awareness to the importance of this. So I'm really excited for that component. And then we're also working with another company to bring composting into offices. I'm sure you guys can maybe even relate that, in an office setting, there's often going to be coffee grounds, maybe some banana peels, maybe some, I don't know, crust from bread, but often not enough compost to be picked up weekly, for example, and so this is going to create an opportunity where we come less frequently, but it doesn't create a situation with smells and who's managing it and whatever. So we've got a couple of different things going on there, which is really, really exciting. And then of course we're always focused on our bread and butter, or our meat and potatoes, or however you say that. It's always so funny. We're vegan, and so it's always so funny that so many of our idioms are about like meat and animals and whatever. Anyways, tangent. So we're really, really excited to always be focusing on our residents and our restaurants, but it's cool to see these other sort of opportunities and partnerships coming up. Yeah.
That's cool. And you mentioned, I mean, it's still you and your husband doing it all. Are you looking at growth, expansion, regionally, or hiring staff? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got our eye on Prescott Valley for 2025. There's an incredible program right now in Prescott, but there's nothing really happening in Prescott Valley. And that would definitely require us to be hiring somebody, because it's an hour and a half drive from where we live.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to be climbing a mountain there and back, in one day. That would of course include a new vehicle, et cetera. So definitely having to make considerations for that. And then definitely the hope is to grow, so that we're picking up at least 5 days a week, and that we can, either have a driver, have somebody else doing some of the bucket washing, for example, and things like that. So we definitely have our eye on that as I sort of root into the more behind the scenes type stuff and step away from the day to day, giving Brock a little bit of help with the heavy lifting and the farm and and things like that. And then also being able to expand our territory. Is definitely stuff that we've got on the horizon that we're excited about.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, wanted to also mention that we noticed, and we've got this super cool, fun magazine here, Green Living. Shout out, Dory. We love you. That you were recently recognized as Arizona's best eco-friendly service for your home, best Arizona company doing good for the planet, up to 200 employees. Actually, I mean, you could say up to 3 employees, right? And Arizona's best eco-friendly small business by Green Living magazine. That's so cool.
Thank you.
I bet that's super special for you.
It was super special. It was wild to even just see us nominated.
Yeah.
And then when they called to be like, hey, you guys want several of these, it was wild. And at first I thought, okay, maybe it's because our friends and family were voting or something. And then my husband said, no, Kathleen, our customers have been voting for us. And I said,
cool.
I said, how would you know that? And he said, because they come out of their houses and tell me we've been voting for you. And that just kind of like took it up, not only is it an Arizona wide, recognition. It's one thing I feel like, not that it's any smaller or any less important, but to like win at a super local level or something like that. But to go head to head with other, Arizona, Phoenix based organizations and businesses and leaders and stuff like that really makes it extra sparkly that, what we're doing is being recognized and that our crowd, as we like to call it, is showing up for us and is proud of, what we're all doing together. It means a lot. And it was super cool to walk into your office today and to see
the fresh batch,
to see the physical copy. I've seen it digitally, of course, but it is really special to see it, in the flesh of you.
And you won Best Green Leader too. Was that Green Living magazine or something else?
No, this was this. Yeah. So again, like I got so excited. I saw the ballot. I sent it to people and said, hey, we're in these categories. Be sure to vote. And someone messaged me back and said, did you see that you're also nominated? And I was, kind of gave me pause to say, what are you talking about? I had no idea. And there's this category for Green Leader in the public sector and Green Leader in the business sector. And someone had nominated me.
That's cool.
I have a much easier time saying like, look at what the business is doing. We're all so proud and we're all, so excited about our collective, power of diverting and environmentalism. But it's a weirder thing to be like, I want a thing, but it's definitely an honor and it's flattering and it's super cool.
Cool. Yeah. And it's part of, running your business is being recognized when you do good things. So it's great.
Thank you for that. I'll take it.
For sure. And, I want to call back to, and I know you're super embarrassed, but the voicemail you left because I want to. No. You totally did. I'm just going to do this right now. No. And the reason why is because, if I'm ever giving advice or talking to businesses or even talking to Gen Z, what advice do you have for, people working today or growing businesses or whatever? Number one is always just pick up the phone and call people. Like, do not text. Do not find me on Instagram. Like, do not send me a weird LinkedIn message. Like, just find my number and leave me a voicemail. Like, it literally is the best way to do business. So the only reason I bring that up, that's my piece of advice. If you were going to talk to somebody who is thinking about starting a business today, based off of your experience, what advice would you give them?
That is a phenomenal question. And I also love your answer so much, like that human connection. I would say start before you're ready and don't overcomplicate it. For example, I feel like, think of your favorite potato chips. They started with just like original potato chips and then they diversified to like barbecue and tortilla and whatever. And it's like, don't try and go in with all of the things right off the bat. Like, do your thing, get your sort of like core service or product, get it tested, get it, get your audience for it, get excited, get your feedback, tweak it, improve it, but don't go in with a million things, million moving parts. Just sort of do the thing, get started, start before you're ready. Take chances, take risks. Don't be afraid to ask for help. But I would say just don't overcomplicate it. Would probably be, the most important.
That's great advice. Where'd you learn that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe just doing this.
Is this your first business?
No. So I owned a coaching business, which I know is like so taboo now, but I was doing, like life coaching. Professionally for several years or whatever. And it was like in the online space where people were running businesses and stuff. So there was a lot of education that we invested in as far as like how to run a business and how to get going. And what to focus on and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that may have lent itself to us being able to feel confident to start a business in 3 weeks time,
Yeah.
and launch this thing and just go. So that may have had something to do with
Right
that.
on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Super cool. Well, I also wanted to ask about your involvement with the Green Business Bootcamp. We have brought this up before on the show. Different people have been involved with this that we've interviewed. Local First Green Business Bootcamp, if you don't know, is really, really what I would call a cool opportunity to learn how to reduce your energy, water, waste, whatever it is that you want to focus on as a business, build a plan for it, and then see real results pretty quickly. How has your collaboration been with our team in that program?
Oh, well, they're amazing. Jason's fantastic. And I was working with Alicia before she left, and what they're doing is awesome. And they've been very gracious with me, despite the fact that I'm really comfortable talking to you here and doing this. I don't do well standing up in front of people at all. Like, if you need me to have a slide deck and like remember which deck, like what thing comes next and like push the button, like I'm going to be like a ball of anxiety for the whole week before,
Okay.
And so I just said to them, like, hey, I'm happy to come and present. I run compost, so it makes sense for me to weigh in as far as like waste. I also, I don't talk about this a lot, but I'm also the part-time executive director of the Sedona Recycle Center.
Okay.
And so it made a lot of sense for me to come in and do that presentation as far as it related to waste on a hyper local level. And they were really cool with letting me just sit and do a roundtable,
Cool.
and we created more conversations. I brought in case studies based on like who I knew was going to be in the room, so that it would be really relevant content versus just very generic content. And it's been really cool. It's been cool to see which businesses show up to those tables, as far as like in the Verde Valley, which businesses are prioritizing sending their staff or even themselves as the business leaders showing up. And yeah, we've had some really good conversations about waste as it relates to recycling and composting and things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Well, the reason we do this show and the reason we interview people is rings back to several years ago where we started the Arizona Good Business Summit. It is our annual event where we bring together business leaders to talk about how do we not just run businesses, but how do we build better community? How do we work together? How do we collaborate? How do we actually do good business in the community as stewards of the community, as entrepreneurs? And so in running a compost business, I would look at that and just say, like, naturally, like, what you're doing is good, right? Your whole business model is focused on creating a better world through diverting, waste from the landfill into compost, right? But is there anything else that you put into practice as a business owner that you would think falls in that realm as well?
Yeah, I love it. And I love in your opening of the podcast is that you guys talk about community, how important that is. So I feel like I'm kind of going a little wild with it right now. But when we named the business Compost Crowd, I didn't want it to be like Brock's Compost or Kathleen's Compost, like, or whatever.
Sure.
I wanted it to talk about a collective, and that's where we came up with crowd, like be part of the crowd, be part of the compost crowd. I wanted it to really emphasize like this is all of us doing this together, that you're part of, something bigger, in participating in this. And so that was always sort of a focus from the beginning. And things that we do and that we're doing right now as far as it relates to community and driving community is, for example, like we're doing the pumpkin drop off that we do every year with the 2 different cities or the 2 different municipalities. And the reason we do that is because they estimate that about 1.4 billion pounds of pumpkin end up in the landfill following Halloween in the United States every year.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's like an educational component, like, hey, you don't want your Christmas trees going to the landfill. You also don't want your pumpkins, going to the landfill. And then we also just partnered with the city of Flagstaff to do a watershed cleanup. And we invited, of course, all of our crowd members. And what was really, really cool is that when we did that in September, there were 2 other organizations that were also there. And they just reached out and said, hey, we're going to together just like organize a watershed cleanup, just us and this other organization. Do you guys want to do it? And so together we're doing that. And so there's a lot of different things like that. I also am really looking forward to doing like a food drive for a local food bank with our crowd. So for example, saying, hey guys, we're going to do a food drive. If you could put non-perishables on top of your bucket,
cool.
We're going to grab them. We're going to make this collective donation. And then the other thing that I'm stoked about doing is that we have a rescue cat and dog. So it's very close to our heart, the local shelters and things. And one of our favorite shelters in Northern Arizona just posted and saying, hey, a lot of the reason that animals end up in shelters is because their guardians can't afford to buy food and things like that for them. And so every 3rd Saturday of the month, we have a food drive and people line up early, and I thought, what a cool thing if we could get the collective power of the crowd to donate dog food, cat food, et cetera, and to make a large donation, on behalf of that. And so I think there's a lot of different things as it relates to both the environment and just community in general. It can just be a really powerful thing to see the collective power of of everybody doing a little or even doing a lot, of course. So yeah, and then we're always at the farmers market. We just had a table at the art walk downtown. And yeah, there's a lot of different community things that we're definitely trying to do to engage people, to bring education and awareness to composting and environmental responsibility. And yeah, and again, like as it relates to, working with the apartment complexes and the HOAs and the property management company, that's also like a driver of community and shared value. Yeah, participation, I guess.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Loved everything about it. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Well,
Thanks.
we're super thrilled to have you part of Local First and doing everything you're doing. If you're in Flagstaff or Sedona, where can people find you?
So the best place to find us is online at compostcrowd.com/sign up.
Cool.
And if you're in Flagstaff, basically May through October, I'm at the farmers market pretty much every Sunday.
Okay.
But that's it's almost over. I don't know when this is airing, but we're almost done for this season, which will be like nice to have our weekends back in a way, but
Yeah.
also a bummer because we love being in the community. But yeah, compostcrowd.com/sign up. If you're a resident, and then just our website in general, if you're a business owner or a municipality or an HOA or something like that.
Right
Yeah,
on.
it's the best place
Right
to
on.
find us.
Kathleen, thanks for being here.
Thank you so
Thanks
much for
making
having
the
me.
trek down. Can't wait to check you out. We hope everybody listening today was inspired by a leader working to leave a legacy in Arizona through doing good business. And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Phoenix Business Radio, as always, for hosting us and all of our legacy partners at Local First Arizona. This is Thomas Barr reminding you that if we want to build a better Arizona, we need to connect deeply with the local businesses that make us proud to call this place home.
Thank you for listening to Arizona Good Business Radio with Local First Arizona, where entrepreneurs and local businesses come together to build stronger communities. We hope your business is inspired to take part in building a better Arizona.